If you are like a whole lot of people who live in cold winter climates, you may have found yourself wanting to go somewhere a little bit warmer for the winter, or at least part of the winter. Your choices in the US are obviously limited. You can go to Southern California. You can go to South Texas. You can go to certain areas in Arizona. And of course, Florida. If you are an RV'er, all of these places are available for you to spend either all or part of your winter. In this video, we're going to talk about Florida, and specifically the Western Gulf side and the Panhandle. We have other videos that we have done on St. Augustine and the Keys in Orlando. If you want to see those locations, I will link a playlist to those videos here. We will give you some tips on where to go and things to do and general tips as well. We'll also give you our impressions of the various areas that we stayed. For this video, we will start with Fort Myers and Sanibel area. Fort Myers and Sanibel are located on the southwest Florida coast, about 170 miles south of Orlando. We stayed at a Thousand Trails park called Fort Myers Beach RV Resort. Actually, it's an encore resort. If you're familiar with Thousand Trails, you'll understand what I'm talking about, but that part really isn't very important. This campground was about 5 miles inland from Sanibel Island. The location for us was perfect. We love Sanibel, so it was an easy trip there, and we were also very close to Fort Myers Beach and downtown Fort Myers. While this is a Thousand Trails Encore Resort, it's probably easier to get a reservation if you are not a Thousand Trails member. About 90% of the campground are regular retail sales and full-time or at least seasonal sites. We love the park for the location and for the really nice people, but it was by far the tightest park that we have stayed. I still scratch my head when I think about how we got our 40-foot fifth wheel in and out of there. They even had bigger motorhomes in there, and they managed. They're very good about helping you get in and out, but it is really tight. My tip for booking this area, and really everywhere in Florida in the winter, is book as early as you can. If you can book a year out, that is really good. If you can book 6 months out, you should be okay, but anything within 6 months, you will have to call around and things will be filled up. Not only are there a lot of Americans vying for the campsites in Florida, Florida is also very popular with Canadians as well, so if you can, book early. Sanibel and Fort Myers area is one of our very favorites. It can be really busy, but this time we were there in November, so the crowds were not too bad. The beaches here are of course white sand and full of seashells, which is partially why I love it so much, or maybe mostly why I love it so much. If you have never seen any of my shelling videos on my other channel, Traveling Treasure Finder, then I will link a playlist here. Please pop over there and check them out. This area also has a lot of golf courses, great bars, restaurants, and shopping. On Sanibel, you can bike almost the whole island on designated trails, and any water sport that you can imagine, such as boating, kayaking, jet skiing, stand-up paddleboard, and any typical Florida stuff to be sure, but it's the beaches that really stand out. Moving up the coast, we spent the month of December in the Clearwater, Dunedin, Palm Harbor, and Tarpon Springs area. This is also on the Gulf Coast, about 130 miles north of Fort Myers. I had only been to this area once, and Ryan has never been there. These towns are in relatively close proximity, and each are a little different and great in their own way. We never did go over to Clearwater Beach this time, but it is the home of some high-rise hotels, mini shops, restaurants, and beautiful Gulf Coast beaches. Dunedin is a quaint little town with boutique-style shops, restaurants, and is growing quickly with hip breweries and a terrific bike trail, the Pinellas Trail, that goes all the way up to Tarpon Springs and beyond, I think. I'm not sure how long the trail is, but it's a great biking trail. We rode our bikes down there about 6 miles from our campground in Palm Harbor. We dined for New Year's Eve at the Black Pearl, which was wonderful, and we had lunch another day at Hog Island Fish Camp. Both we would highly recommend. We enjoyed a beer or two, maybe, at CUNY Brewing, which is right on the bike trail, so it was super convenient. While the town of Dunedin is not on the ocean, the town is home to Honeymoon Island State Park, which is on the ocean. Honeymoon Island State Park is just a little bit north of the town proper of Dunedin. I spent a whole lot of time shelling and beachcombing and a little metal detecting on Honeymoon Island State Park, and I have a full playlist of my time there, which I'll link right here if you want to pop over to my other channel and check out the shelling on Honeymoon Island. We stayed at a very small campground called Bay Air in Palm Harbor. It's mostly full-time residents, but I was lucky enough to score their only pull-through site for the month of December. They were wonderful people and they have a real sense of community at that little park. Not many amenities except a pool and laundry and rec center, but that's all we needed. Another place we could bike to from Palm Harbor is Tarpon Springs. Tarpon Springs is a place where time seems to have stood still. It's a town with a large Greek population, so many of the restaurants were Greek and delicious, I might add. They have a sort of dated downtown, but it kind of adds to the charm. They still hunt for and sell sea sponges, which the town is kind of known for. We were there at Christmas time and we had a wonderful time watching the Christmas boat parade and enjoying the festive atmosphere. We will definitely come back to all of these towns in the future. After we left Palm Harbor after December, we were headed to Destin and stayed a couple of nights in Carabelle, which is along the Forgotten Coast on the Panhandle. We did pass through a few towns like Panama City and Seaside, which are very popular areas, but once you get to Carabelle, it is a very quiet area. There are not a lot of lodging choices and not really much happening, so it was kind of a nice break from the crowds of southern Florida. We stayed at a very pricey, for the area we thought anyway, RV resort called Carabelle Beach RV Resort. It was right across from the ocean. You just had to walk across the street and you're right at the beach. What is interesting about this beach is that the water has a lot of tannins in it, so it appears brown. It is clean and clear, but brown in color. The beach is not white sand, but more like a California beach. There are very few shells, and I did see quite a lot of starfish on the beach. If you want to get away from crowds and the interstate highway, we would highly recommend taking Highway 98 along the coast of the Panhandle. We had no problems navigating our 40-foot fifth wheel. We were really excited to arrive at our final Florida destination of Destin, Florida for the month of February. We booked this a full year in advance and received a better rate for staying a month versus their weekly rate. We stayed at Camping on the Gulf, which was formerly called Camp Gulf. It was purchased by another company, I believe. We really enjoyed the location of this campground. It was right on the beach. We did not get a site on the ocean because we wanted full hookups, but they do have sites directly on the beach. Those sites are a little bit closer together than the rest of the sites in the park, but it was a really great park. I would have to say that Destin is hands down the most beautiful beach that I have seen in Florida. It was truly breathtaking. Much to my dismay, though I knew this from my research, there were very few shells for me to hunt for on this beach. Destin has tons of resorts, restaurants, bars, shops, higher-end shops as well, and golf. But here is the kicker. It is way too crowded. The highway that runs through town, still on Highway 98 that we took across the Panhandle, was stop and start traffic, and it sometimes took us 5 to 10 minutes just to pull out of our campground onto 98. For us, while Destin is beautiful, we probably would be a one and done with Destin. It was just too crowded for us. And from what we heard, March 1st, which was actually the day that we left, is just the start of the busy season. We really enjoyed spending our winter in Florida this past year. Our biggest tip is to plan ahead if you can and expect crowds. Just manage your expectations in that regard. If you can avoid the spring break time period of March through April, you will avoid the worst of it. If you asked us to pick our top spots of all of the places that we went in Florida, we would put Dunedin and Palm Harbor as a tie with Sanibel and Fort Myers. As a close second, we would go to St. Augustine. If you haven't seen our video about St. Augustine, I will link it here. We really loved the Florida Keys and had an amazing time there, but it was very expensive and we probably won't go back there. We hope you enjoyed this little tour of what it's like spending the winter in Florida in an RV. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. We really appreciate that so much. And thanks for watching, and stay tuned for our future videos. We have some big news and some changes coming, which is why our hosts have been a little sporadic lately. We haven't been on as much as we had hoped, but there's a whole lot going on in the background. So stick with us, and we will see you down the road.